Hello, everyone. Welcome to Black Link Magazine. I am your host, Marva B. I am the CEO and founder of Black Link Magazine, and this is the Black Link Experience. Randy Huggins is in the building, and we are so excited, Randy, to have you. Welcome to Black Link Magazine.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. I do call it blessed to have you guys. I'm so excited about what you guys have going on BMF. Let's just talk little bit about what you do, Randy, because you are a producer, a writer for BMF and other things. You were raised in Detroit, so you kind of was like hands on. Let's talk about your experience and your inspiration that you pulled from doing this.
Absolutely. I am from Detroit, Michigan. I'm a few years younger than Meech. I think like 3 or 4 younger than Meech, and like I think I'm only a year younger than Terry. But I've been writing like 21 years in the game. So what's really interesting is that this isn't my first rodeo. My first rodeo was a show on BET with John Singleton called Rebel. You know what I mean? And I also did Power, and I was on the first 3 seasons of Power, which is where I met 50 Cent. And he and I spent an enormous amount of time, because I used to write a lot for his character. And what was interesting, the third season when I was about to leave was when 50 really came back and he was like, yo, I just got the rights to BMF. I'm about to do it. Now, I think he's telling me this so that I can do it, being that I'm from Detroit. But he was like, nah, I got these other two writers and they gonna do it. And I'm like, okay. So after I picked my jaw up, you know what I mean? I left Power, and that's when I went and did Rebel with John. And then I did The Quad on BET, and then I went to Star. And when I was on Star season 2, he called me back and he's like, yo, you want to do BMF? And I'm like, heck yeah. You know what I mean? So it's sort of like, for me, I felt like I've always been trying to tell a series about Detroit. You know what I mean? So to, be given the green light to tell this story. And one of the first things when 50 did was he put me on the phone with Meech. And when he put me on the phone with Meech, the first thing he said to me is that, everybody knows about these brothers from Detroit that went to Atlanta and started getting money. And he was like, but I don't want to tell that story. I want to tell the origin story, why we got into this so that people can understand us more. So once he said that, that's Detroit. You know what I mean? So I was locked, loaded, and ready to go. And, I'm just very happy and thrilled with what we were able to come up with.
Right. So when he came to you and he asked you that, so what are your mind? Your mind start working and you're like, okay, I know the story. Like, well, let me back up. Did you know? I mean, you're not that far
I
out.
didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know that much about their story because, honest to God, I mean, Detroit is, a blue collar industrial town, but we've always had hustlers. I mean, even going back to the Purple Gang, even going back to Young Boys Incorporated, the Chambers Brothers, who the movie New Jack City was based off of. Like, we've always had those people. And most of those people, when we were growing up, we were like, they were putting videos on the news. So we knew about them. But I didn't know about Meech and Terry because in 1990, I left Detroit and went to college. You know
Okay.
what I mean? And
Yeah.
this was really when they were starting to explode and take off. And I never really came. I mean, I did come back for 5 years and teach school for like 5 years. But by then they were all over the world. And that's when I started to hear about them. But I didn't know much about their story. Specifically, like some of the details that Meech really wanted to get, point out was that they came from a nuclear family. They had a mother and a father. They didn't come from a broken home. They came from a nuclear family that was, backdrop in spirituality. And you know what I mean? And they were raised Christian. You know what I mean? As he says in his own words, we were just poor as all get out. He didn't say get out, but he said something else. But for your audience, I say we was just poor as all get out.
Yeah.
And, so they had to, make a decision to fend for themselves and for their family. So that's what really excited me about this was that I could pull so many references about Detroit because what's really interesting, Detroit is a place that has its own culture. I mean, we talk different. We don't say, hey, how are you? We say, what up, though? You know what I mean? We don't drink soda or cold drinks. We drink pop. We don't wear tennis shoes or sneakers. We wear gym shoes. And we don't eat hot dogs. We eat conies. You know what I mean? And specifically, when you really get into the musicology of the city, I mean, of course, everybody's going to immediately go to Motown or Eminem, but I'm saying 1980s Detroit, you really have to pay homage to contemporary gospel music, the Winans, Fred Hammond, Marvin Sapp, the Clarks, they were all coming. This was all being created and orchestrated. But then musically, the biggest thing that I think we've ever given to the world is techno music. Like a lot of people think techno music or EDM is a derivative of, they think that came from overseas. It didn't. It was created by 3 dudes in Detroit, the Belleville 3, during this time period that my show was taking place. So I think that was one of the biggest things I was excited about this project, not only being able to tell Meech and Terry's story, but also how the culture of Detroit is infused in that story, because that's what made them and that's what made me.
Absolutely. And it's so intriguing that you guys were like able to film in Detroit and get that raw footage of Detroit, right? And add that into, you know, telling the story. It's just amazing how you can have a conversation with Meech and then go and write about it. That's what intrigues me, is the writing part. How do you write a whole script, put it together for the film, you know, for the TV screen? And so that's amazing. And what's really a big deal, this is the first time they ever gave anybody permission to tell their story, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was a big deal. That was a big deal. And one of the reasons why I think was that because I was from Detroit, you know what I mean? And we were able to connect. Like, it was crazy. I remember going to, you know, talking on the phone to him every day, going to prison like 3 or 4 times to see him. And I remember we were in prison and he was talking to me and he mentioned this dude. Now, they're from Southwest Detroit. I'm from Northwest.
Okay.
So I'd never been to Southwest. But he mentioned a guy who, not Southwest. I mean, their basketball team was everything. Everything. They always wanted basketball. But outside of that, I didn't really, and I didn't really go down that far.
Really? Okay.
You know what I mean? But so we just connected. And you know, it's really weird. This is really weird. And I'll share this with your audience. I haven't shared this with anyone else.
Exclusive, Black Link.
My name is Randy Demetrius Huggins. My number 2 writer on my show is Terry Kopp, a woman.
It's crazy.
Mic drop. I'm telling you.
Drop the mic. Interview over. Interview's over.
I mean, like, this entire project was divinely ordained. I mean, everything. I wasn't 50 Cent's first choice as a writer. He went to somebody else. I mean, even when you talk about the cast, certain people weren't our first people as cast members, but they became the right person. The director of our pilot and one of our executive producers, Tasha Smith, who is directing episode 8, wrapping us out of the season, she wasn't even the first choice for director, but all of us were the right choices for this particular project. And that's why I say this is so much bigger than anything I could have created. It was divinely ordained, and we were supposed to be here telling this story right now.
I believe it, Randy. I was just talking to Nicole before this, and we said the same thing. I said, you know what? As an outsider looking in, it just felt like y'all were supposed to connect like that, right? You're giving us something 100%. Good. But what's for me and the audience, I believe, is that we can touch, a lot of us can touch, you know, it touches home for us because we did have a 2-parent home, but we made our own decisions that weren't very good, nothing that we were brought up to do, right? 100%. And so while the mother was like, what did I do wrong? How did I go wrong? You know what I'm saying? Well, we're just making our own choices. And we come up I come from a family, mother and a father in the church, and I didn't make good decisions. So it touches home, resonates with a lot of people. What is your, what did you learn about writing this and while you're on this project? What have you learned about Randy in this project while being on this project?
I learned a lot of things. Perhaps one of the biggest things is you have to have on big boy pants to sit in this seat, because when you're in this seat, you have to have difficult conversations. And I'm a Pisces, and that's one of the things that we're not always good at. You know what I mean? Some Pisces. So being in this seat, you had to have difficult conversations with your writing staff, with actors, with producers. And so, that was probably the biggest thing, that I can do this, that I can have these conversations. I also learned a lot about humanity. You know what I mean? Like when I write, I really want to make sure there is no one-sided characters. Like, for those that watch the show, Lamar, you know what I mean, is like, for most people, the worst. I tried to create him as the worst villain ever on TV.
You did good.
But what's interesting about that is that he also has a very soft side when he interacts with his daughter, you know what I mean, or kids in general. So, I think it really taught me to make, and the last thing I'll say is working on this project really helped me build with others more, because I had so much talent. And this is the reason why I think I'm smart. And I had to learn this going along, is that you try to hire the best people you can. You know what I mean? And then I didn't know I coined this phrase, but everybody says it on my show. And then I try to encourage them to put their stank on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Put your stank on it. Don't put mine. Bring what you bring. Yeah. And then we can talk about it. So those were things I had to learn. And a big portion of that evolution and growth was really dealing with Steve Harris and Wood Harris. You know what I mean? Because what's interesting is you get in this seat and you're like, okay, now I'm the showrunner. We're going to do everything I say. Right. But, when you're an actor, you get the words, but you have to be able to bring those words to life. So sometimes they may not be jiving with everything you've written, even though in my head it makes sense. Just stay the line. Right. So, you have to learn to bend and, just share the wealth. And what's dope is when you do that, I can tell you, Miles Bullock, who plays Slim, and Steve Harris. Now, I don't want everybody changing my lines, right? But I'm all about what's best for the show. And there's so many times Steve or Miles made a line shift, and it made me look smart. But that's, again, sharing. You know what I mean? So that's what I had to learn. I love that. A lot of compromise.
I love that, because when you look at a Steve Harris, right, all the experience that he has, he's just kind of got that, can have that no, right? Yeah. And so Randy had to say, all right, man, you go, go ahead. And I know that I talked to a couple of the cast members, and they were like, Randy just said, kind of do your thing, make it your own. And so I love it when you have a producer, director, whatever, allowing you some leeway to be, comfortable in what you're doing. Yeah. So ultimately, what are you wanting your viewing audience to get from this? Because you could, there's a couple of, when you look at reviews and say, well, are they, pushing the sale of drugs, or are you telling a story that while they may have done that, look at all the good that they've done in their community? So what do you want your viewing audience to get out of that?
100%. I'll quote somebody. This isn't me. When Tasha Smith came aboard, she wanted to tell a romanticized view of these guys who aren't, necessarily gangsters. They're organized crime figures and the biggest who ever did it. But ultimately, this is a show about love. It's a show about kinship. It's a show about brotherhood. It's a show about Detroit. Season 1 is about Detroit. So I wanted to introduce the world to my city, and I wanted the world to, no matter what color you are, no matter where you came from, a lot of us had parents, mothers and fathers, and, and dealing with, the family of it. It's like, you're not always happy with the choices your child make. I mean, you grow up and you don't want your child to smoke cigarettes, you know what I mean? Or you don't want your child to drink. But sometimes our kids make a decision that we don't agree with. And I am a firm believer, and hopefully this comes across, that if you raise somebody right, you know what I mean? You raise them right near the tree, they're supposed to venture off. And they'll come back to the tree, and they don't have to stand up underneath it. They need to find where their shade is. So hopefully all of those family messages are coming through, because we know what these guys did. And you know what, ultimately, whatever you may think about Demetrius Flannery or Terry Flannery, they made a decision and they're paying for their decision. I mean, it's not like I'm glorifying. I'm talking about two guys who are in prison. You know what I mean?
Right.
Terry's out, but he's still like on house arrest or whatever. So ultimately, whatever they did to try to afford a better opportunity. They were chasing a piece of the American dream. You know what I mean? And, they've been punished for that. But because of the way in which they were doing it, Demetrius Flannery has created an opportunity for his son, who had no training, who had nothing. And his son got that opportunity and knocked it out of the park.
Yes.
And now he's cast on shows like Euphoria. He's doing a bunch of other movies. So what better example of the American dream is there than this?
You make chills go through me, because that's right. He did what he had to do, if nothing else, to open up for his kids, right?
100%.
And we'll, like, I'll go to the end of the earth for my child, and we all will, in order to make them, to have a better life for them, and not meaning to cause nobody harm or get ourselves in trouble, but we're talking about making we colorful people have to, create our own opportunities. And so what I like also is that 50, you guys gave people of color an opportunity to take care of their families. You hired them on, they're able to now take care of their families, and what's next, opening other doors for them. So I think that's just amazing. What is next for Randy Huggins? Just talk about you and what's next for you. Well, right, I know you're busy.
No, I'm busy. But busy's a good thing.
Busy's good.
Absolutely. Right now, my whole focus right now is on season 2 of BMF. Right. They ordered season 2 like 4 or 5 days after we aired, which was a blessing. So I can tell you this is that I'm working on the scripts. I'm turning in episode 4 this weekend. But I can assure you and all your viewers that if you like season 1 of BMF, like what's interesting, even when you think about season 1, like episode 1, it was good. But then episode 2 was like, oh, and then 3 was, and they each got progressively better.
They did. They make you want to come back. Like, what's next?
100%. And I am assuring you, there's one word I'm using for season 2, and that word is elevate. We're about to elevate and take it to the next level. And when I say, I hope to have people jumping out of their seats and talking to their TV and saying, he didn't put You Can't Stop the Rain in this song. That ain't Teddy Pendergrass. Somebody told me last night, I was with a friend, and they said, dude, why are you messing up all the slow jam? Like, I can't even go see my woman no more because I'm thinking about this crazy man, trying to kill people. So what I'm saying to you, what I am saying to you is we about to elevate.
Well, I wish you nothing but success, and I'm on the ride. Black Link Magazine supports BMF, and we will be following you, because we're just, right now, I was telling Mikal, I said, we want more. We saw it, we just want more, and we continue to want more and see that you guys are elevating, because that's what keeps our attention, right? So kudos to you, Randy, and the whole BMF family and everything that you guys do. Go ahead and tell the people how they can reach you on all social media sites.
Absolutely. You can reach me at TV's Randy Huggins, TVS Randy Huggins, RandyHuggins.
All right, Randy. Well, we thank you again. We look forward to seeing more from you. Like always, you do just amazing work. Kudos to 50 Cent. Kudos to the whole crew for showing up and going overboard to make this work. And so we tip our hats to you. You guys, we're going to get out of here for now. So remember, respect yourself, respect each other. God bless.
God bless you.